Welcome back, Lady Lane listeners. Today, Michelle and I have another insightful episode into the world of navigating the menopause transition. I'm Stacy, the personal development coach, and today Michelle dives into the realm of mental skills, which are crucial at this stage of life. Hi, Michelle. Great to be here with you today.
Hi, Stacy, and welcome, Lady Lane listeners. It's always a pleasure to be here and share valuable insights with you all. Subscribe, like, and engage. We're all here to answer your personal development and menopause questions. And if you would like personal one-on-one approach, hang around until the end, and I'll post the contact information and you can get a hold of us that way. All right,
Absolutely.
let's get to it.
Yes, today's episode talks all about things mental skills related and how they play a pivotal role during menopause. So, Michelle, take it away.
All right. So they are the foundation of resilience and well-being during this phase of life.
Okay. So let's break it down into some smaller pieces so that we can get a better understanding about each skill's significance. So, let's kick it off with the growth mindset.
Okay. So the growth mindset is a belief that skills and abilities can be cultivated and improved through consistent effort and practice. Embracing this mindset during menopause allows individuals to approach challenges as opportunities for growth and development.
And a lot of individuals find this difficult. So, I mean, because there is that saying that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. So,
Right, exactly. So resisting change or viewing challenges as insurmountable obstacles can lead to increased stress and frustration.
okay. So, with that in mind, what kind of practices can individuals incorporate into their daily routines to support a growth mindset?
Daily affirmations, setting achievable goals, not like going from I'm going to go for a walk to I'm going to run a marathon. So, achievable goals.
Hmm.
Seeking opportunities for learning and personal development are effective strategies. This is a great time to go back to school, start a new career, take a couple of classes, maybe some cooking classes or yoga classes, something that you haven't done before.
Hmm.
And then surrounding yourself with a supportive community can also foster growth-oriented mindset. So joining a club, taking a class that has people in it, not just watching it on YouTube, things like that to get you out and start, socializing.
Right. So, really kind of getting engaged and putting that, well, learning something new. And that was
Right.
again, it's always funny for me because every episode that we have, they're all related to each other. So
Yep.
yeah, so that's
Yeah, that's
interesting.
what holistic means. Holistic is the
Mhm.
whole being. So
Right.
anything that affects you as a being, you know, from your mind to everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. So then let's talk about a skill called radical responsibility. And this is also something that a lot of people struggle with, whether you're young, old, male, female, the whole spectrum of beings. So
Yeah.
what can you tell us about that radical responsibility?
So, radical responsibility involves assuming accountability for the outcomes and consequences stemming from your personal choices, words, actions, inactions, taking ownership of one's experiences, empowers individuals to make proactive changes. Now, we are all guilty of this. We all have those moments where we're like, I can do this or I can do this. This will feel much better in the moment, but then you're going to have to do a lot of work to get back to over here.
It
So,
it seems to me that this is almost like a hot button topic at the moment. In a
yeah,
lot of
well, yeah.
in a lot of a lot of different avenues of our culture. So it's interesting that this probably is a skill people have forgotten about.
Yes, or that
Yeah.
that part has turned off and they just kind of say and do what they want with no consequences and then move on and just like yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a big one.
Yeah. Okay. So like you just said about the consequences, what is the impact when someone neglects this concept of radical responsibility?
Yeah, well, avoiding accountability can lead to feeling of powerlessness, victimization. It exasperates your emotional distress. It hinders your personal growth. It does a lot. It also affects relationships.
Mhm.
So, if you don't ever assume accountability for your actions, then relationships suffer and can ultimately be affected. Like if you do something that you know is not right, then your responsibility is to make it right, and however that is. So, whether you have to apologize, you have to change your behavior, that's very difficult for people to do. It's very difficult for people to assume responsibility for something they've done or to assume responsibility for the reaction they're getting from the person they're having the issue with. So, if
Right.
you're consistently belittling somebody, you know, making fun of them, not giving them credit, ignoring their them asking for help, and then they turn around and blow up. Well, whose responsibility is that? You have some responsibility in that because
Right.
their reaction to your action is something you need to step back and take responsibility for. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Did I
And
say that right?
so, yeah, so okay, so along those lines then, what is something that someone can do to almost embrace that responsibility in their own lives? Like, how do you get somebody to own up to that?
Well, that's the question. I mean, we
Right.
all have people in our lives that don't assume responsibility for their actions, and then, your reaction to it is something
Yeah.
that causes an issue. But, practicing self-reflection, thinking about, like, just plain thinking about what the situation was and really trying to get down to what the real situation was or
Mhm.
what really happened, take your ego out of it and really sit down and say, look, this is what happened. This is where I, caused some issues. I need to either apologize or make it better. So that, practicing that self-reflection will really help.
Mhm.
Setting boundaries and then keeping those boundaries. People set boundaries all the time, or in their head, they're like, oh, what this, I need to, stop this from happening, or you're only going to do this on this day, but you have to really make sure that those boundaries are being honored,
Right.
by your, you. Communicating assertively is essential. Don't beat around the bush. Say what you got to say. It's
Right.
much easier to do that because then there's no question of interpretation. And if you are going to have, um, if you are going to have an argument with somebody or you are going to try to get your point across, doing it over a text, not a good idea.
Mhm.
So always try and communicate with somebody.
Mhm.
Learning from past experiences and making intentional choices aligning with personal values that fosters a sense of empowerment and resilience. It'll also allow those around you to know your authentic self. I mean, and everybody has this too, where you're one person with one friend, you're another person with your family, you're another person with your kids. What is your authentic self? There's a piece of it in all of that, but you want to be able to be your authentic self all the time
Right.
with everybody. No one's perfect, or always makes the right decisions or behaves appropriately. We all know that. We all
Right.
are up at 2 o'clock in the morning going, oh my God, in third grade, I did blah, 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 blah.
Uh,
And that really was not the right choice.
right.
you know? So you're human, and we can control what we can control and move forward. And then we take responsibilities for ourselves when we kind of make a misstep.
Right. And
Yeah.
this almost sounds like a it sounds like a process or a learning curve that some people might need help with. That
Mhm.
this is like if they recognize that this is something they need to work on, that might be a reason why they would call one of us
Right.
for
Exactly.
help to gain that perspective because unless you're in a space that you can do that or recognize that you need it,
Yeah.
sometimes they need someone to lead them down the way.
Right.
Okay.
And just remember for our listeners, coaching is moves forward. So we
Mm,
can take you from where you are now and help you move forward with that. Our job is not to go back into your life and figure out where all the problems were coming from that led you here. That is for a therapist or a psychiatrist to help you with. So just keep that in mind when you are looking for somebody to talk to. We're forward moving. We're
right.
not going to psychoanalyze what happened before you, but definitely we can hear a story and say, it looks like you may need to have an apology.
Yeah, definitely. Or
You're either
even,
owed an apology or you need to make an apology.
yeah, right. And even can kind of tap into behavior patterns.
Yeah,
So if there's like a theme that's repetitive with these stories that we hear, we can kind of be
yeah,
like, okay, let's do let's do
yeah,
some you know,
yeah,
mindful, reflection and yeah, radical responsibility. Okay. So
exactly.
with that in mind, let's move on to a skill called positive reframing. So what
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that.
So positive reframing involves reevaluating events, experiences, situations from an optimistic perspective. So, changing the way you're viewing something. It allows you to find meaning and purpose amidst challenges, fostering resilience and your emotional well being. Looking at a situation that is less than positive and then finding the light in it does more for your mental health than something working out perfectly from the get-go. Like I always tell my kids, you're going to learn more from your mistakes than from the things you did perfectly.
Right.
So embrace those mistakes. Even when they were playing sports,
Mhm.
you're going to learn more on the days that you lost than on the days that you won.
Right.
So, you have to spin it to be positive so that
Right.
it's always a learning process.
Yeah.
Um, we adapt and learn and teach all day. If we're constantly negative, we'll live a negative experience. So if we can kind of change that and change the mindset and build those neural pathways like we were talking about last week,
Right.
then we can have a much more positive outlook on things
Right.
and be nicer to each other in the process. Because a lot of this anger that's going on right now is because we're so unhappy with situations with ourselves and don't know how to get out of them. And that kind of projects onto the rest of
Yeah.
society.
Yeah, that's for
Yeah.
sure. So, with if you don't work on this skill, the positive reframing skill, how's that going to impact like your daily life or even your mental or physical health? I
Hmm.
mean, is there yeah.
Well, yeah, dwelling on negativity or viewing setbacks as permanent can fuel your anxiety.
Mm,
It could diminish your coping mechanisms. I mean, how many people do you know who can't cope when something goes wrong?
right.
And then and menopause on top of that, your coping skills are already a little diminished because your hormones are not, supporting your brain function.
Mhm.
And then you have less patience, you have less coping, and you blow up. So making it makes everything more challenging. It's like a domino effect, with menopause sitting right on the top of you. So
Right.
that's what we work on too with the clients is really trying to put a positive spin on things. Like, yeah, it's going to suck that you have a hot flash every 20 minutes. I totally get it. I just had one right before this. We had to stop doing everything we were doing until it stopped.
Right.
But okay, so it happened. If I could have turned it around, just burst into tears, had a huge anxiety attack, but you
Yeah.
sw- you switch it in your brain and go, okay, it's going to last for 5 minutes. And the 5 minutes are over, I will get a nice cold flash, and then I will feel much better. You just have to get through the 5 minutes. So that's something that I work on with the
Mhm.
clients as well, is to kind of just flip that switch. Like it's not the end of the world. You are going to survive this. This is going to work out. You just have to be patient with yourself.
Right. And
Yeah.
so yeah, making those adjustments is wow, it's really important because yeah, when you were saying like um coping and having a mistake and not blowing up about it. Like, I some might say I still am, but I was really like a high strung type A person. And
Mhm.
so that was my kind of experience until I was just like, well, then I had kids and I was like, you have, my mantra to them is always learn from your experience,
Right.
and take away the good, kind of like not analyze it, but, try and take away the best bits of it and learn how to make it a better experience next time. So,
Right.
I guess in some respect that could be considered a type of positive reframing. But
Mhm.
do you have any other exercises or tools that can be added to someone's daily routine that kind of helps foster or grow this kind of sense of positivity?
Absolutely. So practicing gratitude, be
Right.
thankful for what you have. I mean, we are um we're blessed, if you want to use that term, to live the lives that we do live, and so you want to always be grateful for what you have,
Yeah.
focusing on strengths instead of weaknesses.
Hmm.
Like right now, my strength um, is being able to talk to you about all of this and being able to get the word out there. So if I have that in me and I can send that out, then I'm helping somebody else, and then that makes me feel better.
Right.
So there you go, right?
Hmm.
Seeking the silver lining in situations. We all have shit that we're dealing with,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's got something. Some things we tell everybody, some things we don't tell anybody, right?
Yeah.
But finding the silver lining in that, like, okay, here's a situation that we're in, but what came out of it that was good?
Yeah.
You got to look for those things.
Yeah.
Um, Engaging in mindfulness and reframing negative self-talk, and then shifting perspectives towards optimism and resilience.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I think when, my my kids always call me like the hippie mom, which I
Hmm.
don't see myself that way, but I guess from their point of view, when I'm like kind of going, the energy that you put out is what is going to be attracted back. So
Right,
that makes me think of this right here where, and sometimes, yeah, you have to work at it. It's not an easy thing to be positive or optimistic all the time,
right,
but it's it is an exercise um to get there. And I think just like a physical exercise, your mental exercises get easier as you do it more often as well. Like you can kind of just
exactly.
slip into like be like, oh man, this sucks, blah, blah, blah," and then you can be like, okay, okay, but and then you kind of like, flip the script. So,
Yeah.
um,
And if you
yeah,
can keep thinking in your head that every negative and positive create the pathways, if
right.
you don't want to create those pathways and make them really stick,
Yeah.
then you have to change them in right in the middle of it. So whenever you can recognize, oh, I'm going down a path I don't want to go down,
Hmm.
tell yourself, if you continue to go down this path, you're going to create the pathway, and then you're not going to be able to get out of it. And then that's going to be there, so that
Right.
every time this situation comes up, that's the pathway you're going down first.
Right.
And then you're going to have to work even harder to change it.
Yeah.
So if you can recognize it as it's happening, then you'll be much better off in the long run.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
All right. Now I want to take you to one of my favorite things, which is the skill of consistency over perfection.
Ah,
And
yes.
oh my gosh, if there is
I
one
think we
thing that
all
I
suffer
struggle
from
with,
this.
yeah, I think this is a popular one. And
Oh,
it's
yeah, yeah.
hard. I mean, this
It
is
is.
hard to move forward when you feel like you work really hard at something to make it perfect and you just, maybe hit a wall or something. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so consistency over perfection. Hoy. This is great at the gym. Like, you see this a lot at the gym. So if
Mm,
you're trying to lift, heavy weights, right? And you think, oh, the perfect weight would be 100 pounds over your head.
mhm,
You're not going to the gym on the first day to do that. Like, that's just not something you're going to do. So you have to consistently keep going and little by little build it up to
mhm,
then reach your goal. So consistency over perfection is you're not striving for perfection. You shouldn't strive for perfection. You should take those steps up the ladder to get as close as you possibly can, but it's the consistency of doing the same thing and perfecting it, or just moving up the ladder
Right.
each time. So it's it emphasizes that the sustained effort and progress are more valuable than sporadic attempts at flawlessness. So
Hmm.
if you can lift that 100 pounds over your head once, but then never again, what did you really achieve? But if you consistently go to the gym every day, and every day or every week you can add 2, 5 pounds to what you're doing,
Yeah.
that's the visual that you want to go away with. So embracing imperfection reduces the pressure and fosters self-compassion, and it promotes overall well-being. Little by little will get the job done, and to be consistent with yourself.
Yeah. When you were just saying all that, it made me think of that expression. It's not the destination, it's the journey.
Exactly.
And I think that is, for me, I think that really kind of solidifies this concept because, yeah, I mean, perfection is what we strive for that. We want to be
Right.
perfect, but we also
Mhm.
know that being perfect is impossible.
Right.
So, it's taking that focus away from the impossible goal and putting that effort and energy into the steps of getting to that point where it's just you progress and get better and better
Right.
with every go. Okay,
Yeah.
so when we are doing this and we're prioritizing this perfection over consistency, um how does this how does this affect us, especially when we're going through this phase of menopause?
Hmm.
uh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, striving for unattainable standards, which we all do, we're all guilty of this, can
Yeah.
lead to, and you know this too, burnout. I mean, I was up until 2 o'clock in the morning working last night.
Mhm.
I'm going to burn myself out if I continue to
Right.
do that. There is no reason for me to be up at 2 o'clock in the morning working, because
Right.
there's a whole nother day after it. And after that, there's a whole nother day after that. So stop trying to burn yourself out. Stop trying to do everything. You are not meant to do everything. You're not on an island by yourself.
Right.
And that, I think, a lot of individuals, especially ones that are going through the menopause transition, they feel as though, oh my God, I used to be able to do this, and now I'm struggling to do this. So you're striving for an unattainable standard, and that's going to lead to self-criticism,
Hmm.
decreased resilience, undermining your ability. Um, and you're all the while adapting to all these menopausal changes. We're not perfect. We are perfectly imperfect, which is a great quote that I have like everywhere in my house.
So do you think that maybe a part of this that kind of this per desire for perfection, do you think that that might be a point of, because during menopause everything's changing, like life is changing, our bodies are changing, like there's so
Mhm.
much change going on. Do you think that maybe women get stuck in this concept of striving for perfection because we have a feeling of loss of control?
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it. Everything changes when you get to this stage of life. And it really is just the evolution of your
Yeah.
life. It's not,
Right.
um as your as your reproductive years start to come to an end, your children are on one side. Most of the time, by the time you get to menopause, your children are adults, or they're teenagers getting ready to go off to college. They're getting ready to live their lives, so you've got that's a huge upheaval.
Yeah.
And if you have, and then empty nest on top of that.
Hmm.
And then on the other side, we have parents who are aging and
Yeah.
are not doing well or passing away, And so we're kind of in the middle here,
Yeah.
between the two. You have no control over anything. Anyone who has ever raised a teenager knows you have no control over anything. And it is
True.
you when they say pick
Mm,
your battles because there's going to come a time when you need to say to that teenager, this is what you're doing.
right,
And if you have been fighting with them for every little thing, like putting their fork away or putting their clothes away or cleaning their room, the insignificant things, when you get to something that you're like, you have to do this right now, there is no choice, they're not going to
right,
listen. So you got to pick those battles with them. But yeah, nothing's perfect.
right.
Everything's going to be up in the air. And so if you can get these mental skills and start practicing them on a daily basis, you will have an easier time. And if you cannot figure out how to do that for yourself, there are people here that can help you. We
Right.
can help you do that. We're going through the same thing. We're right in there with you. And we may have like one extra book that we read than you did, or like we took one extra course than you did. We're just one step ahead of you. But
Right.
sometimes that's what you need. You need someone who's standing in front of you that can say, hey, I'm going to pull you over here and I'm going to really help you out because I'm here already and I want you to come with me here. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And and it's when you are in that mode, I mean, there's a lot of pressure put on women, through these phases. I mean, um, there's that sense of like, we can have it all, so we want to have it all, and but that is the, ridiculous, unrealistic pressure of always having to be perfect, presenting ourselves the right way.
Hmm.
After you have a baby, you got to get right back into that bikini body,
Yep.
or else you have some kind of problem. You
Exactly.
have to get back to work after you have like a big loss, like you said, like, with parents or family or whatever.
Mhm.
You're raising a child, you have to have the dinner ready, you have to have a clean house. I mean, there's all these pressures that,
Yeah.
and then you throw on the changes that you're going through menopause, and then this, striving for perfection. I mean,
Right.
honestly, it's enough to make anybody feel like they're gonna lose it,
Oh, yeah.
like really just like, start
Oh,
cra-
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
yeah,
Setting realistic expectations and celebrating those small victories,
yeah.
participating in self-compassion. Self-compassion is essential. And
Mm,
that we lack that. We're constantly berating ourselves. Oh, I didn't do this, or I didn't do this well, or this could have been better.
mhm,
In reality, nobody cares. Nobody
right.
cares. Do you think about somebody else and how they did not do something? No, you don't. Never, right?
Mm,
So nobody's thinking about you not being able to, only you're your worst enemy. You are the
that is
only
true.
person that lives inside your head.
Mhm,
So, embracing progress over perfection cultivates resilience. It promotes and sustains growth and permits us not to be perfect and to accept that it's not perfect and
right.
accept that eventually everything is going to work out. If we tell ourselves everything is going to work out, you will get this done. You
Yeah,
will finish. You will move forward. Yeah.
yes. And you know what? It just, this just popped into my head. So I think it was it for Easter, Christmas? I can't remember what holiday it was, but my mother-in-law sent, each one of us in like personalized shirts.
Hmm.
And it had like a funny little saying, and it was very, and she picked them out, and they were very reflective of the person that she bought it for. And this just dawned on me that the one that she sent me said, "Life is too short to match socks," or something like that. Life is too short, or, to have to match up the socks. And I was just like, oh,
Right.
huh. And now I'm like kind of going, you know what? I totally get it. Like, you're right. Like, if I'm wearing a blue and a black sock, no one's good unless
No
someone's
one's
staring at
gonna
my
know.
socks, who's going to be doing that? It just doesn't matter.
And they're not gonna go home and go, you know what I saw today? This woman was
Yeah.
walking around and she had two different socks on. Like,
Right.
nobody
Yeah. And
cares.
so, and I think with these conversations that like you and I have, because I mean, I think that at this point in time, you can truly see the generational differences between like our mothers, how we
Mm,
are, and how the next generation is coming up. And
yeah.
because we're having all the talks and all the conversations that we never heard,
Yeah.
I think this next generation of women are going to be healthier mentally and with this concept of self compassion. I really don't
Hmm.
think that they're going to be as hard on themselves as us, because we were probably what, like second generation feminists, right? With the women's movement and all that stuff.
Yeah, second or third.
Yeah.
So my grandmother, my aunts, me. Yeah, third. So we're the third.
Yeah. So, now it's kind of like, all right, yeah, we want it all, but we're going to do it with grace to ourselves now instead of having
Right.
that pressure for being perfect and kind of almost not letting society dictate to us how things have to be, which I think is like the big one.
That's interesting because I'm running a class for pre-menopause. So that's the time between puberty and perimenopause. So where, most people in their 20s, 30s, 40s are.
Yeah.
And this class that I'm giving, I have a lot of millennials in it and Gen Xers. Gen
Mm.
X or Gen Z? Which one are we?
We're X.
We're X, so Gen Z. So
Okay.
Gen Z and millennials in it. And they are so fired up. Like they are like, take the patriarchy down. Like we're just in a menopause class, and they're like, take it down, down with the patriarchy. I was like, all right, we can explore that, but let's learn about like they know more, they're gonna be more ready than we were, and
Mhm.
definitely more than our parents, our mothers, and definitely more than our grandma. I mean, I don't think my grandmother ever said the word menopause, tell you
Oh
the
God,
truth.
no, no.
Yeah, it was not spoken of. And now we can openly sit and talk about all of this, which
Right,
will open up the door and really alleviate some of these mental skill, help cultivate the mental skills and
right.
help take us out of this darkness
Hmm.
that we seem to have entered, and we don't need to. It's
Right.
periods start, periods end. That's
It's
just
just
the way it
fact.
works. And because we're living so long now. I mean, just think about it. You get your period when you're 12 or 13 years old. You have about 450 periods in that time. I know that sounds like a lot, but for, until you're about mid 40s or whatever, and they start to go a little wonky.
Yep.
And then you have the whole rest of your life without one. It's a very small window that you
Yeah.
have that you're in this, and that we don't know anything about it, and it regulates our entire world. It's
Yeah.
just it's fascinating that in 2024 we are just now getting the next generation is going to be the one that does it. You
Yep.
know, in 2024.
Hmm.
And how many billions of years have we been around?
Right.
And we are finally starting to like be like, hey, listen, I
Yeah.
want to know what's going on in my body. I want the medical profession, I want that to start doing shit on women.
Right.
The medical journals are all about men.
Yep.
Their
Yep.
bodies are very simple compared to ours. Ours are very complex.
Yes. Yeah, for
Take a
sure.
class on female anatomy. It's like I've been doing it for a while and I still don't understand all of it. Like I'm still like, wait a minute, what is that? What hormone is that? What is that doing? How many different estrogens are there?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's a lot.
intense.
It really is. It really is.
Okay.
All
So
right.
then let's explore the last skill, which I think is not that it's more important than any of the others, but I think is pretty significant is resilience.
Yes.
It's something that I'm trying to teach my kids at a young age this time, but why don't you
Mhm.
go in and tell us more about that?
Yeah. So the resilience is the capability of continue to push forward despite facing challenges and difficult circumstances.
Mhm.
Right. So building your resilience enables you to bounce back from setbacks, adapt to changes, thrive, amidst the
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of
adversity.
the big things that I had to work on myself was
Mhm.
in my mind or the resilience skill that I went for was being able to laugh at myself. Like whenever I made a mistake, or like I said earlier, I was a little bit on the high strung side. And now I'm like kind of going, you don't have to take everything so seriously. Laughing at yourself is not a bad thing. It's actually quite good that you can do
Mhm.
that. And I realize, of course, children are, my kids are extensions of myself. So they're learning from me and
Right.
saw me reacting in that high strung way. And I was like, oh, no, 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 no. No.
Yeah.
So with me trying to change myself, I am also applying that
Yeah.
my kids so that they don't feel like when there's a setback that, it's, all doom and gloom. Um,
Right.
so which kind of leads me into asking you about, what happens in our lives when we don't have that ability to be resilient towards difficult situations. Like, how does that impact our daily lives?
Yeah, it does. And you're right. Going back to your kids, I noticed that as I am, learning all of this and starting to put it out there, that my reaction to things directly impacts them. So however I react to it, that's how they think they should be acting towards it. So
Right.
if they do something or somebody out there does something and I have an explosive reaction to it, that just taught them that that's the correct.
Right.
So even with adult children,
Mm-hmm.
and I even notice it with my husband too. It's like if he comes home and he has a situation, I have two choices. I can be calm about the situation and not perpetuate it, or I can blow up too and make the whole thing even worse. So
Right.
you really, that's that was a great point that you made. So low resistance or resilience, sorry, low resilience, it exasperates your stress, your
Mm-hmm.
anxiety, the feelings of hopelessness, impending doom, the ability to cope efficiently. I mean, we all know people who can't cope with anything, the
Right.
littlest thing, and they're like off the deep end. I have had quite a few people in my life that react to things like that, and
Yeah.
I'm guilty of it as well. There are things like, trust me, if I've had 15 hot flashes in a day, by that 16th one and I have it, I blow up. Like
Oh,
I just like I need to go away. I need to get away from here.
right.
Just leave me alone. Like my husband knows, like just I'll
Yeah.
be fine. Just leave me alone because I am not coping well right now.
Right.
So
Right.
you are gonna come in and out of this one, but working towards really trying to handle those life challenges, the
Mm-hmm.
big ones and the small ones, will really help move you forward.
Oh, yeah.
So not being able to find like just things in general, like anything that can set you off,
Mm-hmm.
like not being able to find your keys, or you're late for work, or you can't pull yourself out of grief, or you know something happened in life that just seems like it's such a big mountain to climb.
Mm-hmm.
So those trying to figure those out and try to work through those will really help with the resilience and trying to bounce back from a situation that wasn't optimal.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it helps, you know, like everything you just said, the stress and the coping and all of that stuff. I think if you're able to, I don't want to say make light of the smaller things, but the smaller things, it kind of like takes away the heaviness of it so that when you do have something heavy and serious, like the loss of a parent or something like that, you have the ability to almost float to the top, and not get drowned by the
The emotion
grief
of
or
it. Yeah.
emotion or whatever it is that you're reacting your reaction, I guess you could say. All
Yeah.
right, so okay, so what can we do to develop or cultivate these skills of resilience?
So, getting a strong network,
Mm,
being around like-minded people who are in the situation and who are dealing with it as well.
yeah.
People that you can connect with, people that you feel comfortable with,
Mm,
so a good supportive network everybody should have. Everybody should have at least one good friend somewhere,
yeah.
whether it's a human or a dog or a plant, somebody, something somewhere that you can just talk to
Yeah, for
without
sure.
feeling judged, or, feel like you have to compete with them. You
Mm,
know, that's a very rare person that you find,
yeah.
there's a great book, it's called Strong Women Lift Each Other Up by Molly Gabraith.
Mm,
She's the founder of Girls Gone Strong, which is one of the certifications that I have. And she talks all about this and how to support each other without the jealousy and without the competition, so that we can
mm,
support each other and we can get through times that we, are struggling through. We need each other to really do this. If you go
yeah.
back in time, the when we lived in communities where we don't live in communities anymore, we supported each other.
Right.
Women supported each other. There was like a hut where you went when you had your period, or where you were giving birth, where it was women that came together and really helped bring you up and
Right.
helped, form your personality and all of that. So
Yeah.
we're away from that. And when we get away from that, that's where we have all these
Right. Well, and that
things.
goes back to that saying it takes a village.
Yeah. Mhm.
That was the community right there.
Yeah. Yep.
And I always, not always, but as I've gotten older and I met different types of people, I've always tried to align myself with the people that exhibit the behaviors or personality traits that I felt like I lacked in,
Mhm.
and so with this, knowing, and I guess it involves some self-awareness to a certain degree, like I recognized that I was high strung, I was, um, reacted quickly, and you know, and stressed or whatever. And so I found that as I grew up and met different people, I would seek out people that had the behaviors I was wanting to have for myself, so I
Right.
could almost
Yeah.
learn from them to see how they were in these different situations. So,
Mhm.
and I'll never forget when my early 30s, I had a young couple friend who had been married like kind of out of high school and that sort of thing. And I've never seen two people be more honest with each other than these two, and they called each other out on things, and, and they would openly argue, and that was not anything that I had ever been exposed to growing up. So to see this new way of
Mhm.
being able to communicate in an honest, respectful way
Right.
was
Yeah.
eye-opening for me, and I was just kind of like, "Well, okay." And that's when I think, my search for engaging people began for me.
Mhm.
And that's why my in-laws are the best because they are so filled with humor and, and they're dealing with a lot of difficult situations and it's with grace and, not being like strung out and being like, oh my God, dramatic.
Right.
It's
Right.
just, you take everything in stride. And I would say really they exhibit the perfect example of resilience in this
Yeah.
in this way because it's just you take it as it comes and okay, how do we deal with this in a reasonable, logical
Right.
manner?
Exactly.
So,
You're going
yeah.
to come up to those situations that, there are certain situations that require you to have restraint and resilience
Mhm.
to get through it, because there are situations that are very, very difficult.
Yeah.
And if you can find that in yourself to get through it that way,
Yeah.
so much better for your mental health, for the people around you, their mental health. Like, you have somebody, like, say for instance, your child comes home and tells you something, like they did something really stupid, and you have the choice. Am I going to sit here and berate this child? They
Mhm.
already know they did something stupid. They already feel bad for what they did. They're
Right.
already very upset. Do I then scream at them and make it worse to make
Mhm.
myself feel better, because you're screaming only to release the anxiety and stress inside you?
Right.
Or do I sit back and I say, okay, we can get through this. This is not something that's going to end the world.
Mhm.
Tomorrow will still come, whether you went, even though you did this, tomorrow will still come, and we have to get through tomorrow too. So that is a lot. That is your resilience as well, is just
Yeah.
reacting to something. Because now when that child now does something, or their child does something, or their friend does something, then they will have, the resilience to get through it with them and teach
Yeah.
them how to then move
Right.
forward without having a fit or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is taking that pause, that breath,
Hmm.
and really, and when you were just saying all that, the only thing that I could keep thinking of is it promotes that sense of inner peace. You're not taken over by the
Right.
anxiety, by the stress, by the angst or whatever. It is, bringing in that, channeling the, okay,
Yeah, channeling the Om.
Yes, yes, okay.
Yeah.
And then, and yeah, and then dealing with it in a reasonable way. So,
Right, right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yep.
gosh, this was a really great conversation. Thanks. I
It
want
was.
to, you know, thank you, and for everybody who's watching, listening, how they enjoy our little, um,
Our little bantering back and
conversations. Yeah. And honestly, like really incorporating these skills and how we can empower ourselves while we get through this crazy thing called menopause and life. So
yes, they're one
thanks
and the
for that.
same. They're one and the same, menopause. A lot of people are like, oh, it's menopause. No, it's all on the same line. It's all part of life. It's not something that, you just take out and like you put it over here, you deal with it, and then you come back. Nope, it's
Mhm.
all, you got to figure it all out at the same time. It's
Yeah,
not fun, it's not fair, but you got to do it.
right. And
Yeah,
that's why we're here to help in any way that we can, right?
absolutely. I would love to help somebody. Please, somebody, anybody. Go to
All
my
right.
website.
Well, next time we're going to have another empowering, deliciously interesting conversation about who knows what, because we have so much to say. We just have to narrow down what it is we want to talk about.
Exactly. It is. All
All
right.
right.
Well, thanks, Stacy.
Mhm.
And thank you, Lady Lane listeners. Remember, embracing these mental skills empowers you to navigate menopause. It empowers you to navigate your life with resilience and grace.
Yep.
That's it for today. Keep shining, ladies. See you
Yep.
next
See
time.
you next time. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.